Take a seat. We'll have some more speakers. Uldis, Chris, and Jevgenijs, if you're here, please come forward. So we now have a small panel with some of the Baltic startups that have been going places and are the ones that have gone through some of the pitfalls and painful experiences that others can learn from. And so, so we wanted to gather a few on the stage and have an opportunity to have a bit of a discussion, and also for you to ask questions, and for the group to help you learn. And as pretty much every single startup event, the key is to learn which mistakes you should not be making, that someone else has already paid for and some other investor has burned money on. So that's what this is about. And I think I don't see Jevgenijs coming, so I think we're missing Jevgenijs. But let me actually ask each of you to do a small introduction. Some of you have already been on stage, and to give a quick background on who you are, your company, and sort of what stage it's at.
My name is Uldis. I'm co-founder of Infogr.am. We started 2 years ago, and we're currently the world's largest producer of infographics.
Hey, I'm Chris, CEO of Erply. We started like 2009 when Estonia was hit by big economy downturn, and still operating. Good stuff.
I'll skip introductions.
Yeah, but maybe a quick word on Erply as to what the company does.
All right, Erply is ERP and point of sale in the cloud. So very simply, in long-term vision, we are going to fix the retail, so to make the shopping back more engaging and fun. So.
Great. So maybe we'll start with you. Since the others have been on stage already, and sort of the first thing I wanted you to talk about was really, in the business today, what is the #1 toughest challenge that you've faced, why, and how did you deal with it?
To find enough great people to drive the business, and kind of build up the next level teams every year pretty much. So I think finding the great people is kind of the #1 task for every CEO. Everything else should be solved by those guys.
And how do you find them? I mean, you found some great people. Where?
So it's kind of longer story anyway, but the idea was originally that we tried to do everything with only with Estonians. So we sent a bunch of Estonians to New York. That was miserable failure because they really couldn't live there. It's kind of not speaking about bad environment in sense of having small apartment. You're going to rent a couch there. It's kind of very different situation. So there is pretty big cultural problem for most people coming out from for example Baltics, because the countries are easy. So yeah, we are kind of going to the local market, and we are trying to staff only with locals, including developers, including help desk or sales guys, and also we are going to in every single country we are targeting. We build a local company with sort of local CEO or COO who is taking care of all that business, and who has the access to the local resources, who knows the people and the environment and all kind of stuff.
But isn't that much more expensive than bringing a bunch of Estonians to New York and putting them on a couch?
Probably it would be much cheaper, to bring the Estonians there, but it would end up they still want to have normal life, and the normal life in Estonian means in New York is very, very expensive. So it's kind of probably it's easier to hire New Yorkers, in long term, it's cheaper because you are going to pay the street price, The locals, they maybe, I don't know, they have their family house, and they live there, right? So it's very basic stuff, but this is what you see very fast, so
okay.
They cannot get their lives in
So
order.
all this, in the 2 years since you pitched here at TechChill, what is the toughest challenge?
So far we've always, I would say, finding the right people. We always try to get the top talent, and sometimes it means that you can't get the right people in the right time. That sometimes takes way longer than you would expect it to. And also, right, and also to find the right place for the right people, because when you work in a corporate environment, then there's a very typical form that we have a spot for, let's say, a developer, or we have a spot for a sales guy, and this is the thing you're going to do. And in startup, whatever you start doing today, I can promise that in 6 months it's going to be something else, absolutely else. In 1 year, I can guarantee it's going to be absolutely else. So the person should be open-minded to change. So how to filter out those who would be very reluctant to that, or who would just not be team players, for instance. And once you got those people on board, what is the strength of your team? Because you don't really want to have your team to perform in a way that, oh, we need 2 developers, 2 designers, whatever, and that just go and do whatever what the description of your work is saying. You really want to get the 100% of what the skills of those people are, because someone could probably have a brilliant ability to attract different super skilled people while working as a developer or designer, or someone could contribute to PR, someone could contribute to branding or something else. And the motivation is very, very important to feel that you are part of a team and you can actually contribute to every aspect of things we do.
Okay, so Kristo, are we going to make it a cliche and you'll say that the hiring is the hardest thing?
If you asked me the same question a year ago, I would probably say finding the growth engine. Now that we have,
You've crossed that off the list now.
I can't say that I've crossed that off the list, but I sleep much better, seeing that growth happening. So that's solved, and I have to agree to an extent. It's about building the organization for us now, building the people. It's less about individual hiring. It's more about how to make the teams work together, and how to make sure that the customer is still in the center of everything, and how to build a product, not with 2 developers and 1 product guy, but with 20 developers and 5 product teams.
So if you rewind, so basically you're saying that the toughest challenge now would be probably hiring, but actually when you rewind, before you had growth, would you guys agree that the toughest challenge was not hiring? It was something else?
Yeah, so the toughest challenge is like hire the people who are alive or connected, right? So that's kind of like the key thing. So it's very easy to hire like ton of people, but it's very hard to find like those really connected persons you really want to work together with, you know. So, and if you find those guys, you know, then definitely you find the growth and everything. So I don't know, like, yeah, it's kind of like which one is first question, but we have the thinking that our developers have to spend around like 1/3 of their time on distribution. So, and it's very like, it looks like random thing, but the reality is that when the marketing team and then the growth team has to find resources outside from the house, you know, and then they probably land like some not so great talent, you know. So the growth is so important for the company, so you want to actually use your best resources to build the growth and build that. You know.
So let me make sure I understand specifically what you mean. So you said you want your developers to spend 1/3 of their time on distribution.
Yeah.
Meaning specifically what? Building?
From A to Z, you know, from adoption to user experience to all kind of even random things like building out some tools, building out some integrations, figuring it out, you know. So helping, I don't know, somebody to build some spam or integrate some spam or whatsoever. Let's say you need to integrate like a great CRM tool, very automated CRM tool, which is called Intercom, for example. We love it. The product team has to do it, you know, not some, it's not marketing problem, it's product problem, you know. So they all have to be worried about that, you know. So.
I would actually disagree with, so I think there are two ways of doing it. One is to, when you're starting small, one is to think that, hey, I'm going to get the smartest people on board and they're going to make it work. This hasn't worked for me. So for us, what has worked is basically you get smart people on board, but first of all, you have to do it either yourself or with your senior team. And once you make it work, you know, whatever that it is it marketing, is it virality? Is it product? Once you make it work, then you get professionals to do it for you.
Yeah, it makes sense. You know, you yourself, you should be definitely the best guy in the team. So otherwise, you cannot be in that team, right?
All right, so let me turn the question the other way. So what is the number one thing you would have done differently that you wish you would have, damn it, we made this decision that was really stupid. We should have done something else.
Well, last year, and well, probably over the last 1.5 years, we spent a lot of time on on opportunities. When you're a young company and you got a call from a Bay Area or New York or Redmond, wherever else, and then they say, hey guys, you can work with us on a super exciting project. Now we'll help you out with marketing, whatever else, and that's a great opportunity. And as a startup, you several times a year being active could, like in our case, you can get those kind of open doors to open opportunities. But it's all distraction, and several times we said no, and unfortunately several times we said yes, which meant that we've spent a couple of months probably going a random weird direction we never would go voluntarily. But you don't see that from the beginning because you feel like, wow, that's a great opportunity. And when the journey ends in the wall, you realize that there was a wrong way to go. You go back and you say never again. And so probably been 2 or 3 times last year when we've done it. I hope we'll never repeat it.
Okay. Kristo?
So I think I've seen about 10 or read about 10 to 100 blog posts saying that, the worst thing that can happen or what always happens in a startup is that you lose focus and you start doing like various different things as you were explaining. And I thought, it's not going to happen to us. we're not going to lose focus. We know what we need to do. In the middle of last year, we were all over the place. We were doing various projects about how you could integrate a TransferWise button on your website, launching 5 different languages in TransferWise, etc., etc. And it took it took us a bit of we created a little shock for ourselves that, hey, this is all fantastic, but how does it help growth? And we sort of realigned everything that we do behind the growth metrics. And that's something I wish we had done at the beginning of the year.
But how do you know, right? Because putting these buttons on someone else's website, right, if it's the right website, the right button, surely it's going to help growth?
It might do, but we have already worked out a few things that already work for growth.
Okay.
So, why do you go catching a fox in the forest when you have a dog at home that works?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is I think the general thing about focus. I never thought that you could really lose that, but it's there are levels of focus, and I think even for us there's probably can be even more focused.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Chris?
Probably like the single thing we actually did wrong. So generally that's the process anyway. So you have to make all kind of mistakes. Most important is like fail really fast. Shut the problem down. That's the key. So originally, when we won the seed camp or whatever you do, like let's say raise capital or get like some superstar employee, whatsoever, you get like reached out by many people. All kind of ideas are flowing in, hundreds, right? So you have to do very smart filtering. And not like going crazy, start expanding to everywhere. So the joke was that what we did, the biggest like mistake originally, we should like go and move faster to the New York market, which is like obvious choice because of that size there. Was that we got like reached out by some guys, pretty decent IT company in Greece, right? In 2009 or something, right? Or 10, good stuff. So we built like Greece version of Erply, good stuff. And of course we did like Latvian, version as well, and Lithuanian, and then probably something else. So we ended up like having like a lot of things on the plate. So we really couldn't deliver. So we actually shut everything down, and we just focused on the single market. And we chose like New York, right? So investors ask like, okay, but what about UK? What about France? What about Germany? The answer is actually looking from New York. What Germany? You know, like it's New York. It's big enough. You know, be there. Like don't spread yourself too thin. You know. And now after like almost like 4 years of like development of that company, we're actually reopening our activities in Baltics, you know. So actually we're hiring like people in Latvia, right? Lithuania. So we're building up this stuff here. Going back, so first build something in some market, build up like some revenue and foundation, get profitable, get break even, and then you can go and do like some other stuff, you know. So.
Okay. So, so what are the advantages in coming from the Baltic states? Anything that's helped you along and that others could take advantage of? Kristo?
So we actually didn't come from Baltics, we came to Baltics.
But you guys are from the Baltics,
Both
right?
me and my co-founder are Estonian, so we are ethnically from Baltics. We started the company in London, but when we started hiring our first team, we thought of the people that we knew that are really good, like really good. And it so happened all these people were in Estonia. So although I know many people in London that are pretty good, it is just the level of quality and reach in Estonia that we can get to build a team. So I think today, we can probably, with me and him together, we can probably get the best people in Estonia.
Right, and is that developers or also others?
I mean, also others, because much of what we do is not development. It's about products, it's about operations. It's a little bit like these big banks that were built up in Estonia. These are some really great entrepreneurs that did that, and the early team there has been doing something totally amazing, and fortunately, they're free-ish now. Same with Skype. No one wants to work for Microsoft.
Yep, so it's a good hunting ground for you.
Thanks. So I agree, yeah. The talent in Estonia has been definitely like the crucial for our success. Originally, of course, like development, resources and capabilities, but later even the other areas. So yeah, I think like the easiness, such kind of like unfair advantage, flexibility, certain flexibility, price definitely are core advantages, which can give you get started faster, going faster, but you have to use it. So this means that you can actually leverage that advantage when you are, let's say, building in like Latvia or in Estonia, or like providing service from there and actually selling it in right market, right? This is like huge leverage, and our commitment, but commitment to our team is that we constantly, pretty much like monthly basis, we're raising salaries, right? So our goal is like to make our Estonian team to make exactly the same amounts as our US team. So it's a bit hard, but we are getting there. So this means like ultimately like pretty massive like salary numbers for those guys. But since they're doing that, it's going to happen. So, and then now this is our way to pay back, so they definitely are going to make a ton later. Thanks to that, they were in right place, asked right salary originally, helped us to succeed. They're getting that back, because we rely on our like team so much. But yeah, Estonia had like so big like payroll difference. Like 4 years ago, unemployment rate was massive, crazy, and it's not so bad now, but that definitely helped us to hire fast and do things fast.
Are you going to run out of employees to hire in Estonia?
I don't think we are going to run out. We are going to take away the employees from the others. So they're like the banks, right? Nobody wants to work for the bank. The banks are actually moving like their dev centers back to Scandinavia, mostly like Swedbank, whatsoever. And I don't see there is like big issue with the talent. They're really well trained. They have experiences. Let's say you are in similar situation in New York, for example. You're not going to get any developer from any bank ever. That's not going to happen because like they're asking is something you cannot even raise that 1 year salary from here, right? So that's the problem. So there is like massive advantage. Use it. That's the thing. There is massive advantage in those markets.
I would
Go on.
Sorry, just before you go, I would say that actually the one thing that is hard in Estonia, and I'm assuming it's the same in Latvia and Lithuania, is that we don't have a lot of startups, a lot of people who have a startup experience.
Yep.
They're like corporate experience and startup experience are two totally different things. You might be a brilliant engineer, building a state visa system, but that won't work in a startup. So when you have the Skype, that's awesome. You get lots of people, with good experience from there. But I think the generations after us, the people that are hiring from TransferWise and Erply.
We chatted with the US ambassador in Estonia, Mr. Jeff Levine, and actually we figured out like really great idea. So the idea is like matchmake like Estonian developers with the US MBAs. And that's going to be like the killer matchmaker because like they have ideas, access to money, capability to pitch, but they cannot hire any developers because first they don't have cash and second they can't find anyone. But there is like plenty of resources in Estonia, so we're going to make the situation better there. Don't worry, man.
So that's your next business, huh?
Yeah.
All right, Uldis?
So right, yeah. So every job interview, or most every job interview we did over last year, we start with was explaining a few basic things. Now we do not live in garage. Yes, we do pay taxes. We do not work on weekends, and some things that people think about startups is and now it's really changing in towards. So I would totally agree that after a year or two, and probably that would be way more easier. Now people are eager to join startups. 2 years ago they were not. They were really surprised whatever it is, and the first TechChill conference was probably some kind of what exactly it is. When you start a company now why Baltics? There's no right answer why New York, why anywhere else. But stay at your home, I would say, because there's only one. You already failed. When you start a company, there's everything against you. Then don't go into a foreign territory where there's way more unknown things, unless you feel absolutely confident that that's the right thing to do. Most likely, you're gonna get the better people, the better terms, anything else in the place you lived your life. So if you come from Riga, that's definitely the best place to start a company. You'll get the best people. Also, looking back to Silicon Valley history, it started because a lot of people were hungry and willing to succeed. Now there's a lot of talent flying in there, but what's cool about Baltics is that a lot of things here could be changed for good. A lot of things here could be improved. A lot of people are really hungry to improve stuff. That there's a massive opportunity that you have to take it and build it from ground up. And the startups is the way to do that. So people are happy to join the startups. There's a really vibrant community. I mean, Andres knows it best, how Tech Hub looked like 2 years ago. There was a bunch of empty tables. Now we've squeezed in so much, now looking for a place to expand. So this is what's happening. So it's a lot of energy, a lot of people was really optimistic look at the future and willing to start their own things. And probably joining startups to learn how to do that and then leave the startup and start their own.
Chris?
Yeah, just reflecting back to that, let's start locally, be here. Maybe second biggest mistake we made after that Greece stuff is that we actually listened too much Estonian customers, right? There was absolutely no match with US customers, They're absolutely two different markets. Even like the button we use in point of sale, it's called pay, right? It's called tender in US, you know. So it's kind of like ridiculous stuff, you know. There is nothing matching. So choose your market very wisely and be there and scale it up. You don't need to bring all the devs there, but you have to be there. You have to build a team there. Otherwise, you are going to fail. If you try to match everybody's or make everybody happy, that's never going to happen. You know?
Great. So, so now it's time for some more Olympics. So who has some questions? We have 3 guys with a lot of experience on the stage. Who has questions? I have more, but I'm sure someone else has some. Ah, yeah.
Hello, my name is I am from Rubylight. So the panel, the name of the panel is Startups Who Succeeded. What is the success for you? How can you define that you are the startup that succeeded?
That's a very good question, and I'll take it as a compliment for Andres, like naming the panel like that. So for me, the success is the number I showed earlier, the 15 million that we've saved our customers, and the fact that we keep saving more. So we've invented something that works. That's the only success that I can claim so far. And then, you know, building 65 people strong organization behind it, and, you know, being keeping up the pace. That's a success so far. I think there is much more to do. We're definitely just running the first miles of the marathon.
Really good question. Thanks for that. So for us, success first is like how many new employees we can hire and how much we can raise salaries. That's it. So that's like the core mission of the team. You know, later probably we can pay some dividends, right? Besides that, you know, it's number of stores and merchants we are helping, and then our teams are constantly worrying and figuring out how we can help them to make more money. That's it, you know. So two numbers: how many employees, what's the salary number, and another is how many users and how much we added revenues to those kinds.
I think we all can look back and find things that we're absolutely proud of, and I can say about Infogr.am as well some things, but I don't think there's such a thing as a success in startups. If we wanted the startups that succeeded, we should put Kobuk and Getjar on the stage. Probably that's what the success means. But I mean, this is kind of like while you're alive and kicking and moving forward, I don't think you look at, oh, it's so great, it's so like we're so successful, we're so happy. Things you look about is all the problems you got around, the things you have to solve, and things you have to move on. And there's a bunch of stuff to do, and certainly, yeah, looking back, there's things you're proud of, the things you're not proud of. But the main thing, I think, for probably why they put us on the stage, I bet, is the reason that we're moving fast forward, and we still see a lot of things ahead instead of looking backwards.
So to paraphrase, you mean your success is you haven't died, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's a good lesson, because, you know, startups are a long road. But you make sure if you don't die along the way, you survive for the next day. So, next question.
Hi, I'm from University of Tartus Entrepreneurship Club, and you mentioned that there isn't so much startup culture here in the Baltics. So, what do you think? What are some ways we could improve that?
Okay, it's a hard question. If I had, I can give a couple of examples that have worked well. I don't think that there's a silver bullet there. So when I said there's no startup culture, I think that it's just small, and it comes with experience. So the best way to do it is to have more startups. So how do you get more startups? You need to get bold people who are willing to step out of their commercial, their comfort zone, and, you know, come up with something clever and try and sell it. Press helps a little bit. You know, the fact that our president keeps tweeting about every single startup in Estonia, that's cool. You know, people think it's cool. They wanna get there. They wanna join a startup or start their own thing. And actually, I think that the Baltics generally have a good startup culture. At least our generation. Because we saw, or the generation above us, they started basically the entire economy, or restarted the economy. So built all the banks and telcos, etc., etc. So they were like genuine startup people. It's now that we have to learn how to do it in the internet or in the tech world.
We are doing actually really like concrete steps, So how we are going to do that? At least our small input to making Estonians more like entrepreneurial is that if you're building something around our ecosystem, or you're building something on top of Erply, then first we are going to help you to go to trade shows with us, etc., etc. If you make something which makes sense and works well and customers are happy, we're probably giving you some funding, So because we are well funded, we are making nice profits every year. We're actually, and currently we have I think 6 or 7 companies where we have stakes, and we are so we kind of invested into some accounting software. We have customer loyalty software. We have some other companies around us, and it's actually really exciting to see that this kind of ecosystem is growing. Mostly they are smart developers. They are smart specialists in that area. They only need access to the customers. They need some access to the money. So we give our customer base, we give some cash, and they are going to be revenue positive in, I don't know, half year. That's it.
I'll tell you a story. So a few weeks ago, I was sitting in Tech Hub, and I heard knocking on the door, and there was a guy, a little weird-looking guy. He was probably, I don't know, 18-year-old. He's like, I want to start a gaming company. Where should I go? I was like, do you have any appointment? No, I don't, but I heard I have to go to Tech Hub to do that. So I think there's something in the air. So I plugged him with a few folks around, and at the end of the day, I was seeing him staying there for a couple of hours and chatting with game developers, and probably they went through what the next thing for him to do. But you see the sparks in the eyes of those people, just I want to do something, and I see more and more of them. So I don't know about the size of the ecosystem. You can measure it in different ways, but I see that there's a lot of hungry people willing to do really crazy things, and every once in a while you do next super big thing there. So probably there's something going on which we don't know about, and we'll hear in the next month or next year. So very optimistic.
I really like the question. Can I give a follow-up as well? So there is a piece of advice. If the next best thing to being a founder is going to work for a startup. And if you don't find a startup here or in Tallinn or elsewhere where you live, go abroad. Go to Stockholm, go to Berlin, go to London, go to the Valley. Find the startup you really like and work there. I wish more people travel the world. More people from the Baltics traveled the world, worked at some really awesome companies, came back and started their own.
I would add, don't go to Stockholm, please. Go to Hong Kong or Shanghai or do something more exciting, come on.
You're going to start an argument with the Swedes here, right? All right, next question. On the back.
Hi, Thomas from Society. Well, I think more or less all of you agreed that one of the key success factors or one of the most important things is finding proper teammates, finding proper partners, and so on. Could you please elaborate on the topic and maybe share some tips and tricks, share the best practices, how you exactly find them, and actually how you motivate them?
So we want to open our Latvian company, so who wants to join, right? Send me an email, chris@erply.com, so this is how I find, right? But besides that, you have to just screening people, right? So have constant job offerings open, have your website fulfilled with all kind of it's another lead gen thing, as you're sourcing customers, you need to source some people as well, and you have to go to events, go to Garage 48, figure out something great, and later you have the team, Garage 48 is probably the biggest such kind of event. Now there are some even hardware events going on. Plus there are some others, I don't know, in other countries. come on, like just go there, network, and you have the team, you know, and then maybe they are willing to work for like food until you make it. You have to give like equity, yeah, but that's fair, right?
So if you are a startup, you can look around what are the most successful large enterprise companies around you. You probably can get all the people from there because it's super boring to work for those guys. That'll be one thing. And but if I have to look back and see where we have found most interesting people for Infogr.am, I would say it's on Facebook. So I'm not saying I'm hiring friends or friends of friends of friends, but word of mouth on Facebook is the way it works for us so far. We've done a lot of interviews. We found people on LinkedIn. We interview those guys. But at the end of the day, people find us and usually contact us on like personal messages, like, "Oh, hey, I heard you looking for someone," but as people come with a reference from someone you know and you trust, and then you can validate this kind of the whole where they come from. And yes, they usually come from larger companies, and they say, hey, I want to work for a startup because I want to do something meaningful. I want to do something that changes the way, like where I can make some impact. And yeah, so social networks combined with super large organizations around you, that's the resource.
And be ready to tolerate some fail there, right? So because I said, when you are hiring fast, then like mistakes come, right? And that's it, you know, that's normal process.
So I think hiring works differently for a small startup and a bigger startup. So for small startups, there's a good post on Quora by our investor Peter Thiel when they started PayPal. I think the post is by Keith Raboy. It basically says that go hire your friends. Like find your smartest friends you know and hire them. So that's when you're small. The worst mistake we did when we were 5 people, we hired a recruiter in London. That was a total fail. But then again, now we're processing about 500 CVs a month, which means that we have a full-time in-house recruiter working in Tallinn, and we're hiring one in London, and we have contracted recruiting agencies in London working for us. So it's different in different stage.
Right, question there?
Hello. How about this failure thing? So have you ever lost investors' money? Do you know someone who has in Baltics, and are they still around?
The investors, the money, or the startup? The entrepreneurs. Have you ever lost any investor money?
Oh yeah, not enough. So we raised $7.5 million this far, and we've already lost half of it for our own salaries and all the other good things. So yeah, I mean, you need to spend money to grow, and that's fine. Tolerating failure, I think, is what he actually asked for. I think we need to tolerate failure, and I think you said it well. You already failed when you started. You live like it. You know, the investors that you bring on board, you look into their eyes and you know whether they're going to tolerate failure or not. If they don't tolerate failure, you move on and take the next investor who does.
Failure is like your growing process. So from A to Z, you know, like probably you will fail with hiring, probably you fail with like some investors, they are not great match. Some customers tend to be fails later, going to cost you a ton of cash, you know. Until you're not like completely shut it down or bankruptcy, it's okay, you know. And after that, I think it's same, you know. So you have to go through some processes. You have to find out how to assess the persons around you. Some of them might be, I don't know, stealing from you. So some are maybe stealing your ideas, whatever. That's okay, you know. That's kind of like growing up process. So you have to take it as like the degree, or kind of like how to make your next level education done, you know. So that's, you have to learn that. Nobody can give you that information.
There is opportunity to invest in startups in AngelList. You can start with $5,000 as far as I know. And there's a frequently asked questions section for AngelList, and one of those frequently asked questions is, how do I know my money is going to be spent wisely? And the answer is, well, we can almost guarantee it will not be spent wisely.
Exactly. So, so I'd like to thank the three panelists.